Hey there, EB here, doing our Anything But Bland weekly update. We're doing it obviously on Wednesday this week instead of tomorrow on Thursday. We had the seismic election yesterday, and we all woke up this morning. And congratulations to Donald Trump. Congratulations to the Republicans and the MAGA movement. He won a resounding victory. He won to a point that I think we have to acknowledge where our country wants us to move. I think we have to acknowledge the Democrats did not put up a candidate that inspired, did not put up a candidate that could move some Republicans to the Democratic column, and certainly not enough of the independents to move to the column. I think our country has spoken loudly and clearly. This was a full and fair election. There wasn't anything that I believe the Republicans did that hurt this election, other than, obviously the rhetoric, but that was from both sides. The only thing that happened yesterday was a little bit troubling. Was there were a number of bomb threats in the Democratic areas in Cobb and DeKalb County yesterday, which affected the voting lines and may have affected some people to come, but he was winning Georgia regardless. This was a loss and a victory for Donald Trump. This wasn't close. Again, the polls were entirely wrong. Good morning, Benita Maharana. The polls were entirely wrong. It was not close. It shows that the pollsters cannot get to the people in a meaningful way to be able to determine who is going to win an election. Donald Trump repeatedly and historically underperforms in polls and underpolls, and they cannot capture that 5 to 7% of the people that ultimately do vote for him. I do think there was a significant number of people who may have been on the fence, but when they went into the voting booth, came in and voted for Donald Trump. I think there are some people who actually said that they were going to vote for Kamala Harris, but couldn't get in there and pull it. So what does this say about our country? I'm not one of those people that are going to sit here and bedwet. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're heading down a path where our country is destroyed. That's we're going to have a wait and see approach. But what I am saying here, hey, Sue-Ann Boyks from South Africa, hey, Melissa, I don't believe the polls either, Melissa Norman. What I am going to say, though, is that it's time for a politician to do exactly what he said he's going to do. And it's time for the country that voted for Donald Trump, the supporters, to hold him to account, to do exactly what he's going to do. Now, I want everybody to know I fundamentally disagree with these policies. Everybody probably knows that I voted for Kamala Harris, but at the same time, he ran on a very serious platform of issues, and those issues are as follows. One, he's going to pardon all the January 6 people who are convicted or currently charged. That has to be done. Number two, tariffs. He needs to do the across the board 200% tariffs that he said he was going to do. Three, he needs to deport everybody in this country, both illegally and those that he said that are legally here that should go. So those are all of the Haitians, all of the illegal South Americans, people from Mexico, a lot of different people. Number three, Elon Musk is going to be in control of various portions of the federal government. He will need to fire a significant portion of federal civil servants. He will either combine or get rid of the FDA, the USDA, the FCC, Department of Energy, as well as the Department of Education. When he went into Twitter after he purchased Twitter 3 years ago, he fired 80% of the workforce. So Donald Trump said he's going to turn him loose to do all that. He then said RFK will have free will. He will be able to just go wild, is what he said, with Health and Human Services, FDA, USDA. Robert Kennedy doesn't believe that there should be fluoride in the water, so that should be removed. He doesn't believe in childhood vaccines. Those should be taken away. He believes that there's different chemicals that are in the water that causes children to become gay or transgender. That also needs to be dealt with. Every single thing Donald Trump ran on, including lowering corporate tax rate, lowering the capital gains tax rate, and lowering taxes for upper income earners like me, should be put into place. He thinks that the IRS should be eliminated. If that's what he campaigned on, that should be done. There's most likely going to remain a Republican House. We now have a Republican Senate. So there's no obstacle for what should be done at this point in time. More importantly, he said he wanted to arrest Liz Cheney. He wanted to arrest Adam Schiff. He wanted to arrest Nancy Pelosi. Those all should be arrested. That's what he campaigned on. That's what he told the people that voted for him, and those people that went to the voting booth, that's obviously what they wanted. The issue of reproductive rights was a non-issue. He increased his vote. Donald Trump increased his vote in 90% of the counties in this country from 2020. So that's a mandate. That is people that more people now voted for him in 2024 than they did in 2020. I believe he's going to win the popular vote, and he crushed the Electoral College. I think he may win every single battleground state, and I'll get into why I think that Kamala made a monumental mistake in picking Tim Walz, and I've said that from day one. I thought it was political malpractice. If anybody listens to my updates, they'll know that I thought it was a horrible selection. But he won Pennsylvania, he won North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. It looks like he's going to win Michigan, looks like he won Wisconsin, probably Arizona and Nevada, those battleground states. The country clearly said they wanted all Republicans in the House and all Republicans in the Senate. The Senate flipped with Sherrod Brown losing to Bernie Moreno. He was a car dealer out of Ohio who said that women over 55 years old don't care about Roe v. Wade or abortion or reproductive rights because they can't have babies. That is the case. We had John Tester losing in Montana, new Republican senator there. We have new senators across the country. Ted Cruz, again, was reelected, even though that Conrad was a good candidate, a former NFL player, pretty sharp guy. It looks like that Slotkin in Michigan is going to prevail over the Republican, and Ruben Guerrero, who is a House member in Arizona, appears to have beaten Kari Lake. So Kari Lake, hopefully she doesn't run again. Obviously, she ran for governor, she ran for Senate. So at the end of the day, I think we're going to have probably a 54 to 55 Republican senators. Chuck Schumer's going to be out. We'll either have John Thune, John Cornyn, or Josh Hawley, or Tim Scott, but the Scott from Florida, who also won his race as being the new majority leader for the Senate. Looks like that Mike Johnson will stay as Speaker of the House. So I'm not being facetious here. This is what our country wanted. So he ran on all of these issues, just like in 2016, he ran on, I'm going to build that wall and Mexico's going to pay for it, Mexico's going to pay for it. They never did. He never built the wall. But this time, all of those policies that I said that he campaigned on will go through. Also, he needs to pardon himself. He also needs to prosecute Jack Smith, the independent prosecutor. His first act in office, obviously, is going to be to fire Jack Smith and stop every single criminal investigation on a federal level that's against him, which will leave two state court cases. They will not go forward. You can't prosecute a sitting president. And if he gets out of office in 2028, or he decides he's going to stay, as he said this week, that he shouldn't have left in 2020, maybe in 2028 he decides, I'm not going to leave office, then he will face those possible charges at that time, but there will be appellate issues, and by 2032, most likely, he may have died. So I think that all the legal issues will be gone for Donald Trump. I think there will be a complete reversal on the conviction for the $350 million, as well as the felony issues of interfering on the Stormy Daniels thing. So I think he's got smooth sailing. He needs to follow through and pardon everybody. He's going to have an administration now where he said that he learned his lessons from the first go around, not to have people like Tillerson as Secretary of State, Cohen as Secretary of Commerce. He's not going to hire a John Kelly, a General Milley, or a General Mattis. Most likely Rick Grenier is going to be the Secretary of State. Kash Patel will be his probably head of the CIA. He's bringing in all people that, and this is his right, this is the mandate that the public wants. 53% of the people voted for him. So this is the mandate that they want. They want people that are going to be loyal to him and do it. So I think he got some really great endorsements the past couple days. I think Joe Rogan was a major endorsement. Even Megyn Kelly, who campaigned with him, was clearly a big endorsement pickup, because in 2016, he humiliated her on the national level after she interviewed him and asked some tough questions. He suggested that she was bleeding from all orifices and from her eyes and some of her body parts. And, for probably 6 or 7 years, she couldn't stand him. But now she endorsed him. Obviously, Ted Cruz endorsed him after he accused Ted Cruz's father of killing Lee Harvey Oswald, and saying that Heidi is his wife is one of the ugliest women alive. This is what happens. McConnell, poor Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, who's probably one of the architects of this, because after the January 6th insurrection and then the second impeachment, if he wanted to move all of his party to impeaching Trump and convicting him in the Senate, he could have done that. For a month and a half, he said that he was a despicable human being and that he's responsible for January 6th, but then he relented, and that's when everybody came back in support of him. And that's how this coalition continued through 2024. McConnell wrote a book last week where he said that Trump was the most despicable human being he's ever met, unstable, incapable of governing, no conscience, but yet he supported him. And then Sunday, Donald Trump laughed when he was giving a speech in Pennsylvania and said, well, how embarrassing is it that I've humiliated Mitch McConnell to the point he called him Old Crow. He made fun of Mitch McConnell's wife, who's, I believe, Chinese or Asian descent. And he said, how much humiliation can I do to one man? And yet he still supports me. So I think McConnell's going to go off in history. But if we look back at how this happened, Kamala was not a perfect candidate. I've said that all along. You can't put up a San Francisco quote-unquote liberal to expect to get mainstream America, the steel states of Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, you can't put up a black woman and a woman and a San Francisco liberal at the same time. It's just not going to fly. She made a monumental, I think, something that could never be reversed by picking Tim Walz. He was by far and large the worst candidate that she could have selected. It reaffirmed her commitment to a far left agenda. He was a flawed candidate, a flawed man. He lied about his stolen valor of fighting in battle. He lied about being at Tiananmen Square. He was not. He was in Taiwan, and when that happened in 1988, he lied about his wife being on IVF. She was never on IVF. And he waited 3 days while Minnesota was burning before he unleashed the National Guard, I think after the Floyd killing. So he was a bad candidate. I said that she should have picked Governor Shapiro from Pennsylvania. She would have won Pennsylvania. She would have shown the country that she is intending to govern from the middle, because he's a very strong, moderate Democrat. She was concerned about losing the Muslim vote in Michigan and Minnesota, and so that's why she picked Walz instead of Shapiro. Ended up, she lost the Muslim vote anyway, even though she picked Walz. She may have won Minnesota, but she lost Michigan, she lost Wisconsin, all the states that Biden beat Trump on. So she ended up cutting her nose off to spite her face by picking Tim Walz instead of Shapiro. And I think Shapiro could have overcome a lot of these stereotypes for her. She had a rough road. It's very difficult. All Trump had to do was kind of coast on in to pick to win his presidency. He picked off all the people that ran against him, and did a really good job of beating them. And so all he had to do was get to the finish line. I mean, for Kamala, it was an extremely difficult thing. She had to introduce herself again after a failed presidential campaign in 2019, plus all of the different things that didn't go well for the administration over the last 4 years. And she had to basically run a campaign. She had to cook dinner, box somebody with one hand. It was a pretty tough road. But at the end of the day, she did the best she could. I think she had a pretty good introduction. She raised 3 times the amount of money Trump raised. She kicked his ass in the media, in the debate, and she had big crowds. Well, now we know big crowds don't mean jack shit, okay, in a political race. We know that she was not polling accurately. So the pollsters are absolutely committing malpractice and have done it since 2016. So I would think that the Democratic Party needs to look long and hard. Look, who do I blame for this? I blame 2 people. I blame Biden, because after the midterms in 2022, he should have said to his party, I'm not rerunning. I'm not going to run again, which would have given them enough time to have an open primary system. And if Kamala wanted to run, then she could have run. And if she won, she won. If she lost, she lost. I do think it's undemocratic for her to be designated by Biden at the end of July when he decided to step aside, instead to have a quick primary system as Nancy Pelosi wanted and both Obamas wanted. But it is what it is. I blame him. I blame him significantly. But the person I blame more than anybody, believe it or not, is Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, because he waited 2.5 years before he brought those January 6 charges and the confidential documents case in Florida before a grand jury. And even though they were indictable cases, there wasn't enough time to see them through. So if he would have brought them earlier, then there may have been a reckoning for that before the election. So he has done a horrible job as an attorney general. That's on Biden. He picked him. Great judge, obviously, for the Second Circuit when he was a judge. Probably should have got on the Supreme Court, but for McConnell wouldn't put him on. During the last 7 months, the Obama administration wouldn't put him up for a vote. But a horrible attorney general. Probably is going to go down as one of the worst. I also blame Michelle Obama. I think Barack should have gone to her earlier and said, put your hat in the ring, put your name out there. I think she would have been a much better candidate than Kamala Harris. But I think it's going to be a long time, and it's sad but I don't think we're going to see a female president, certainly in my lifetime. We are not like European countries which have embraced female presidents and prime ministers throughout history, whether it's Israel, whether it's Italy, whether it's England, Margaret Thatcher, or Greece, or any of the South American countries, Argentina, so many countries, Germany, Merkel, so many countries have put women in positions of power. I just don't see it happening in our country. I just think that we are too male-driven in our country, and it's just a tall order to expect that a country is going to elect a black woman who is liberal. So with that said, the next thing I'm looking at is the Supreme Court. We have Justice Sotomayor, who's going to be 73 years old. She is unhealthy. She's a diabetic. Remember, we're in this position and on the Supreme Court because Ruth Bader Ginsburg was so selfish that she wanted to die with her robe on. Remember, Supreme Court justices are Article III judges. They serve for life, lifetime tenure. They don't run for re-election. Nobody can fire them unless they're impeached. She knew at the end of Obama's term that she was been battling cancer for 5-6 years. She should have resigned, and then Obama could have put a pick in place and would have been a seat instead of Gorsuch going in that seat. And so Sotomayor needs to retire today. They have a Senate Democratic majority, and Biden needs to appoint another younger, more liberal or Democratic selection so that the balance on the court remains 6-3, because the odds are Sotomayor is going to have health issues over the next 4 years, and if a Republican replaces her, it's going to be a 7-2 Supreme Court. So that is a major, major issue. But let me tell you where we are as a country. We're sick and tired of the Clintons. The Obamas don't have the cachet that they thought they had. The country's basically done with Barack and Michelle Obama. They're done with Nancy Pelosi. They're done with Chuck Schumer. They're done with Democrats saying that, half or 55% of this country is garbage. That's got to end. Hakeem Jeffries, the worst, the most ineffective minority leader of the House I've ever seen. When Nancy Pelosi was minority leader, she still was able to have her face in the news. Hakeem, you never see him, you never hear from him. So I think the Democrats need to take a long, hard look. The progressives, you lost. I'm not a progressive. I'm in the middle of the road. I'm either a middle of the road Republican. Last 8 years, I've been a middle of the road Democrat. The progressives, you're done. If the Democratic Party keeps letting the progressives have a voice, they're going to be in the wilderness for the next 30 years. I do think that the Republicans are going to have control for the next 20 years, certainly the court system. Certainly Trump, now that he has control of the Senate, is going to pack the courts with very, very young judges, district courts, appellate courts. They serve for life. They're Article III judges. So I see a long road in the diaspora for the Democrats. It's just the way it is. I think that J.D. Vance is going to be the standard bearer for the Republican Party and the MAGA movement after this, whether it's him or it's Rick DeSantis. I think Nikki Haley is toast. I don't think she's part of any part of Trump administration. He has not spoken to her since June. He didn't need her on the campaign trail, and he didn't even have to woo her voters because they voted for him in droves. So I was 100% wrong in how I viewed how this election I thought was going to go. I did predict that Trump was going to win to my family and to my friends. I actually bet my friend Rob Lepine and Daniel Hughes, my friends, $25 each that he would win. But I thought it was going to be closer. It was a landslide. That's really what it was. And he won all the 7 battleground states for me. So evidently, there were a significant number of voters who said, look, I don't like the way Trump behaves. I don't like the way he speaks, but I like his policies. And that is where we are as a country. The country wants policy changes. Look, the Democrats, you blew it. The open borders, it killed your chances. I don't agree with open borders. It resonated with the people that we just had a free flow of influx of a lot of different people, some that we didn't even know a lot of things about. Um, so, you know, I think that you, that we're going to see massive changes, but hold Donald Trump and the Republicans to do those changes. Don't let them kind of gravitate towards the middle, run on these issues, but don't do it. Make them round people up and deport them. Make him go after Nancy Pelosi and Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff. Make him put 200% tariffs across the board. Make him tell Ukraine, we're not giving you any more money and you better sit down with Putin. He obviously said, Bibi Netanyahu, do what you want to do. Well, Israel, go annihilate all the Palestinians. This is what our country wanted. They don't want Roe v. Wade anymore. It wasn't important enough to the women. They want Obamacare to be vacated, to be reversed, and to be taken off. They don't have another plan. They said we have concepts. Reverse it. Vote it out. No more free health care like that. So all of these things, I think, are a mandate for Trump, and I am going to not be bitter about it. I am not. But I am going to make these policies come into fruition. I have great followers. I have great friends that listen to me, and I'm going to harp on this. If this doesn't happen, then you 53% of the people were misled, because this is what you wanted. You didn't maybe want it all, but you either wanted people deported and our border shut and a wall, or you wanted hard tariffs, or you want a national federal abortion ban, no exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. You want less contraception, no morning after pill. Other people want to slim down the federal government, get rid of the deep state. So there's something for everybody, but this better be done, because if not, you were sold a false bill of goods. Look, if I'm Liz Cheney, I'm moving to Canada. If I'm Tim Walz, I may not even run for governor again. All the January 6th people, they need to be pardoned. That's what he said he's going to do, and we needed to stop with these prosecutions. They were patriots. It was a day of love, according to Donald Trump. So pardon everybody like you said you did, because if not, it's not fair to those people, family members who voted for you and friends of people who have been charged or convicted. I think we need to look at how we do the polls. Obviously, last night, Donald Trump kept out a lot of the media that he felt are against him. So let's get rid of the media. Let's get rid of CNN and all these other papers that are enemies of the state. And let's see what the next 4 years looks like. I'm willing to give him a chance, but I want him to do exactly what he campaigned on. He is that strong of a leader with a bully pulpit. Certainly the rest of the world now sees where we're going. NATO is very concerned. Ukraine's concerned. Russia is jubilant. Even Iran, I think, is jubilant in a way. So the first thing is let's unleash our military on our border and against the Posse Comitatus law. Let's pick up some people that are enemies of the state. He got a 13% increase in Latin voters from 2020. That's extraordinary. It just goes to show that Latino voters and women and black men and regular blacks are not a monolith anymore. The Democratic Party can't count on them, because for the Latinos, they're very strong on economics and very strong on religious issues, and a number of them are against reproductive rights and abortion. So you can't count on them. So that is something that we learned. I am so impressed how he grew his margins. The guy knows what he's doing. He didn't have to debate her. He didn't want to debate her again. He understands the pulse of our public more so than all the political pundits, including the Republican Party. I mean, the Democratic Party. I just don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to have a female become president of the United States. I don't know if there's a candidate out there. I used to say Condoleezza Rice was that candidate, but I'm just not sure. There would be a lot of people that say, yeah, I like her Republican conservative beliefs, but she's African American. So it should be a very interesting couple years that we have before. But I hope we've seen the last of Bill and Hillary Clinton, and I do mean that. I think the Obamas, I think their power is overrated, especially with the African American community, because they've essentially become millionaires. And so I don't think they can relate to the hardworking African American community that we see in most states. So I would like to see them go. I would like to see a new minority leader, no longer Hakeem Jeffries. Again, I want Pelosi to retire and Schumer to leave. I do have a concern of, our court system and what's going to happen. I do think we're going to see what Trump has always wanted, which is a military parade, the parading of our weaponry, our tanks, our soldiers through Washington, D.C. He's always been enamored by that when he sees it done by North Korea and Russia, China, as well as some of the European countries. RFK is going to be an interesting addition to the administration, and Elon Musk. I think on one hand he's going to do a lot of changes, but I think he's a smart man. He's going to rob our country because he's going to get every contract in the world for his cars, and because I think he was instrumental in swaying a lot of people to go Donald's way. I don't think the Democrats should sit here today and cry and lament. I think they need new leaders. I think the people that they have are doing a horrible job. Jamie Harrison, who is the head of the Democratic Party, I never liked him even after he ran against Lindsey Graham. He's done a horrible job running the Democratic Party. So let's talk about some other issues which are interesting. Quincy Jones, who was an amazing Motown music mogul, he died this week. He did the We Are the World. He was with the Supremes, Michael Jackson, just an amazing talent. He died. How about USC versus Texas A&M? USC football is back. I think it's one of the best defensive teams that we've ever had. I think LaNorris Sellers is going to be a quarterback that we are going to really like over the next 3 years. Shane Beamer obviously has secured his job for a couple more years, or 4 or 5 more years. We are the best 3-loss team in the country. We should only have 1 loss, and I think we should be pretty close to being in the top 12. Very proud of the Gamecocks. Unfortunately, the male basketball team lost last night to, I think it was, I don't, my son told me, but I forget. It was Northern something. And so I'm worried about the male basketball team. I'm not worried about the girls basketball team because I think they're going to go undefeated again, which is about 2.5 years worth of being undefeated. Let's see, Mahomes and the Chiefs. Oh my goodness. Do you realize that they may go undefeated this year? They were 8-0 in their last 8 games last year. Patrick Mahomes is, without the doubt, the best quarterback this world has ever seen. I get it that Brady has 7 Super Bowls, and I say he is the GOAT. But what Patrick Mahomes does and how he knows how to win, even though when he's not playing his best. I mean, right now his interceptions outnumber his touchdowns. But in the fourth quarter, when it's crunch time, the man knows how to put the ball in the end zone. I think Andy Reid's one of the best now coaches in the history of our game. So the Chiefs are amazing. Look at LeBron James. The guy's almost 40 years old, still getting triple doubles. It's extraordinary what he's done. He's the leading scorer in NBA history. I think he can play for 4 or 5 more years. He's that transformative, that generational talent. It's extraordinary. I am a Sixers fan. I am so disgusted in Joel Embiid. The Sixers gave him a $300 million extension in the offseason. He certainly played in the Olympics, but he hasn't played a game yet. Not only is he playing a game, he pushed a reporter who questioned why he misses so many games. And there was a reference that he made to his dead brother and his son named after his brother, Arthur. Embiid is now suspended 3 games. Paul George for the Sixers injured. All these teams that we thought were going to be good, Denver, New York, they're not good. Milwaukee, they stink. The East is Boston Celtics look great. Indiana looks good. And Cleveland. The West is the Lakers, Dallas. There's so many good teams. So that to me is interesting. In Ukraine, I am very troubled that Ukraine is now fighting North Korean troops. That is something that has to be a concern to even Donald Trump. So let's talk about where we're going here. Let's get together. We're going to have a smooth transition of power. I don't want court cases. I don't want the Democrats to have an insurrection. Biden needs to cooperate with Trump. There needs to be grace. Kamala has no opportunity or no right to contest this election. She shouldn't be bitter. She did the best she could. But the Democrats got trounced, and they should have gotten trounced the way they tried to pull off this with 90 days to go. Biden, he's done. Toast. His reputation as a president is going to be forever tarnished, that he really killed the Democratic Party. It's rare that an incumbent, his approval rating was at 38%, between 36 and 40%, mostly his entire presidency. That is underwater. So it's impossible for a running mate or a Democrat to overcome, and how he thought that he was going to be reelected with the 38% approval rating, with a disapproval rating of 62%. It's extraordinary. It's arrogant. It's an egomaniac. His advisors are horrible. And I also blame his wife, okay? Now, on the way out, pardon your son, okay? Do whatever you got to do to pardon everybody that you want to pardon. I mean, Democrats are toast. Trump's going to come in and pardon the January 6th insurrection. So with that said, let's say hello to everybody. Sue Ann Books from South Africa, hello. Melissa Norman said, taking childhood vaccination away would cause a resurgence of smallpox, chickenpox, pertussis. You are correct, but RFK does not believe in vaccinations. In fact, I don't know if you know that, but he advocated in Africa not to do the measles vaccine, and they went from a 0% on measles to an epidemic in certain areas in Africa. Victoria Palomino says, let's have hope for 2032. You're talking about 8 years. The world will be different. Our country can be different in 8 years. EB may not be around in 8 years. I'll be 70, close to 71 years old. It's a little depressing to say, hey, let's just wait for 2032. So Casey Adele says she was glued to her screen watching the state Senate seats that were flipped. Yep, Heather Bauer actually beat Kirk Finley, which is amazing. There were some state Senate upsets, so I want to get into that next week. Karen Loudly, you are correct. We are not going to have checks and balances. All one party is a unique thing. We haven't had it many times in history, so we shall see. Trump will get his agenda the way he wants it, but he does become a lame duck president the first day that he serves. But I think he's going to be a different type of president. I don't think he's going to be a lame duck. I think it's his party, and this is a Trump country at this point. So I think he's a bully pulpit president. I think we may never have seen anything like that in our lifetime. He is also the first president since Grover Cleveland to serve in consecutive terms. In not consecutive terms. Grover Cleveland did that, and I think there was Harrison in between his second term. So that is what we have. Tommy Moore says, do you think if she picked Shapiro, would it have been different? I do. She would have obviously won Pennsylvania, and I think she could have picked up some of the more conservative blue wall states. Brandon Powell says, assuming the election didn't go my way, which it didn't, I appreciate most of your level-headedness and openness. What is head speaks volumes for my character. Much respect. Thank you very much, Brandon. I accept this election. That's what we do. We accept when we lose, and the country has spoken, I think, with a clear voice. And all I ask is that those that voted for Donald Trump and the Republicans, make them do those policies that were important to you, whether it's immigration, whether it's a more pro-life stance, whether it's tariffs, whether it's arresting people or deporting people. Make them, hold them accountable. Debbie Mosley Prince says, I disagree that a woman isn't a possible president. There hasn't been a candidate that I would have voted for yet. Condoleezza Rice, I would have. Yeah, it just depends on where you stand on that side of the fence. Suni Daz says she disagrees with me. Only half the country wants these things, but it's not the half of the country that won the election, Sonny, and I'm with you. But unfortunately, we lost, and winners, there are consequences for winning an election. I'll never forget in 2008 when John McCain lost to Barack Obama. He was sitting at the table in the White House, and he was pressing the policies that he ran on. And Barack Obama turned to him and said something extremely profound. What he said is, elections have consequences. I'll never forget it. And he's 100% right. And this election has major consequences. And I think if we're going to see if our country can work, all these policies need to be put in effect. And if they don't work, then we know where we need to go. But talking about them and not doing them when the country wanted these policies, I think would be a mistake. Brandon Powell said Northern Florida, big thing. Thomas Bland says, I wish I would get into politics, meaning me. I don't think anybody's going to elect a Jewish guy. I'm sorry. From Philadelphia, it's not going to happen. Can Trump run again? The answer is no. You're limited to 2 terms. Do I think that he will try to get a 3rd term if he's successful? I think he will. And I think there are a significant number of Republicans that are going to tell him to try for that. He will not get sentenced next week. That sentence will be pushed over. Or if he's sentenced, it'll be that the sentence will be suspended until the appellate court rules on the appeal. Don't hold your breath that there will be any type of sentence next week for the conviction. Adrian from Scotland says, hey, EB, sending love. Love Scotland. I love going over there with my brother and my friends. I've golfed the Old Course. I've golfed Troon. I've golfed Turnberry, Muirfield, Kingsbarn, all the great courses, Creel, Glen Eagles. So many good courses. Western Gales. Love Scotland to death. So, guys, we'll talk next week. Take a deep breath. Don't get upset. Go hug your family. Hug your friends. Those that disagree with you, make sure that you remain friends with them. Don't get in arguments. This isn't the time for recrimination. Let it all unfold. With that, EB out.